You are now listening to Talking Transparency, the podcast where transparents talk transparently. Hosted by Thea Ross, Melissa Luxon, and Cody Connor.
Welcome back to Talking Transparency. I'm Melissa.
I'm Thea.
And I'm Cody.
Awesome. So we are here. We are podcast talking with people transparently. We are transparents, talking transparently. And we talk about a lot of issues. And so today we're going to focus on, the TikTok ban. It's like what everybody's talking about right now. So the latest I've heard is that SCOTUS was supposedly going to drop an opinion this morning, and they didn't. So now they're probably going to drop the opinion tomorrow. Mm-hmm. But apparently the Biden administration there was a meeting after Biden's farewell address last night. I don't know if y'all saw that. I didn't watch it, but I've seen clips of it. But that there was a meeting with like TikTok creators, and that supposedly Biden is going to put some kind of 60 to 90 day stay in place, likely a 90-day. They just have to figure out legally like how they can do it, but they know that they can. I'm pretty sure with the incoming and, with Mango Mussolini coming in, that because he's trying to save TikTok, but for probably different reasons, you know what I mean? Like then Biden is trying to save TikTok, that it's likely that they're not gonna, it's likely that basically Trump will rewind that. So SCOTUS could come out tomorrow and say the law is not, they can say like it's not a good law, and and boom, we keep TikTok. I listened to SCOTUS arguments last Friday, and I listened to the whole thing, and I was like,
didn't seem like that's the way it's going.
Didn't sound, which is shocking to me because I listened to the arguments, and I'm like, I don't understand how they don't see the TikTok ban as like a First Amendment, a violation of the First Amendment. You can participate in only an American-owned media company, Americans. Like, come on now. Like, get out of here. So, that's where we are right now. So Ed Markey, Senator Markey, he tried to come up with a bill, but somebody got pissed off, and then that bill basically is not going to get any movement, which was for a 270-day extension.
Yeah, I saw that, the 270-day extension to give them more of a chance to sell.
To sell. And ByteDance has basically been like, y'all can screw off.
We'll close down on the 19th.
We'll just close down on the 19th. We'll black out on the 19th. And so, it's got a lot of creators really upset because they're, people not just monetize, but there are people who run their small businesses off of TikTok.
The TikTok shop.
TikTok shop. It's their literal livelihood. Yeah. And so never thinking, right, that something like this would happen, obviously in America, because we're supposedly this, the most free country in the world. We're not. We're like, by the way, number 17 in the world for freedom. So that is so far the status of TikTok. What I love is that this generation is a big FU. And if the government the government who buys our data, by the way, the government purchases our data. They have basically, the government has like actual shell companies, corporations that buys our data. Okay. They want to control our data. And we have said, we own our data. You're not going to tell us what to do with our data. You don't want us, you don't want us to have access to TikTok? Guess what? We're going to go download an actual Chinese app that is actually controlled by the Chinese government.
And just give it to them.
And we're just going to give them our data. Because our data is bought and sold by every single company that interacts with us.
All the time.
On the internet, all the time. To include our own government. So, and what's really happening is that Americans are seeing that all the propaganda we've been fed about China. Now, I'm not saying that China doesn't have their own governmental issues with, fascism. I'm not gonna say that. However, the Chinese people, I have gotten over the last 4 days a look into China and their life. And I'm like, man, I don't really want to move to China, but China looking real good right now. I mean,
well, what have we done here in America?
Bullet trains, fucking high rises.
We haven't invested in our infrastructure. We're seeing bridges crumble. We're watching public services being shut off.
Yep.
We're watching people struggle with their retirements. We're watching people not be able to afford even rent, let alone buy a house. We're watching an entire generation see themselves be worse off than their parents. Mm-hmm. And the only answer that the U.S. federal government has for any of these woes is, well, let us see if we can't regulate your health care if you're trans. Let's see if we can't, or if you're a woman, if you're a cis woman.
Yeah,
let's see if we can't ban entire social media companies and let's force the sale to billionaires because the government can't do anything. We can't have a Bill of Rights. We can't have assurance over our data. We can't have any sort of access to privacy or right to removal. We can't even have those conversations in this country about what is necessary for us to exist as digital persons in digital spaces.
Yep.
And instead, we're just going to be heavily regulated. And why? Not because they're trying to regulate free speech. They don't even see it as that issue. It is entirely a resurgence of the Red Scare. They're worried about the Communist Party of China. They're not just worried about China. They're worried about communism. They're worried about the idea that capitalism or the underpinning of the ideologies of capitalism are being subverted by these messages, or the idea that free speech itself is allowing for that to happen, which goes to show that a lot of these people, these capitalists, these billionaires, owners, and a lot of them are in Congress, the people who voted for this bill, whether they be Republicans or Democrats.
Or Democrats, that's right.
Are desperately afraid that the Americans are saying, no, we want a more equitable government and we want a more equitable share. And the way in which this ties into other things that are going on in social movements, it is really scary because it is in a very modern way for billionaires and that ownership class, the political class, to say,
it's a plutocracy. It's an oligarchy.
These people don't have their free speech. Well, they still have their free speech. They can go out on the street and they can say whatever they want. But that is very much like saying, well, the people are starving. We'll let them eat cake.
Well, right.
Because we're going to take away and we're going to make, we don't care. It's not our responsibility to provide a public sphere.
But the Red Scare situation.
And China can't do it either.
The Red Scare situation is so crazy because guess what, people? China is not a communist country. Communism is stateless, classless, moneyless. China the government they operate in the economic system of capitalism.
Well, and that's the thing, and because people have capitalism's not a government.
Capitalism is not a government. It's an economic system,
and almost all of governments operate with.
Well, when I say the Communist Party of China, that's a political organization.
But they use the word.
But they're still a capitalist society.
Right, they're still a capitalist society, and the thing is they're using communist in their word, but they're not a communist government. There is no communist. Basically, there's no communist country in the world. It is that word is they're using that to scare us. It goes back. It's the same thing what I'm saying about Russia, right? Mm-hmm. It's like Red Dawn, right? Since the 1950s and McCarthyism and when the Red Scare started, that has been just United States propaganda starting in the 50s, and Russia. While we were building bomb shelters, and we've been worried about, sorry TikTok, spicy balloons. We were building spicy balloon shelters. I have to remember TikTok friendly language, and we were afraid of a nuclear, war. The whole time, Russia has been like distraction. No, we've been infiltrated by the Russian government. From inside out. They have been eating our government and taking it over for decades. And we are now at the culmination. And notice how everybody's talking about, all the Republicans talk about China. Notice how none of them talk about Russia. Because that is who has infiltrated our government, and that's why these people are now standing for Putin. It's disgusting. It's absolutely disgusting. And now you have the billionaire class who is also doing the same thing. So Zuck, Musk, and who's the third? Peter Thiel. Nope.
We're talking about Bezos. I mean, I feel
Bezos,
like Washington Post hasn't been doing great lately.
No. I think all three of them will be at the inauguration. Yeah.
Oh, also, I saw the CEO, Tim Cook, Apple, gave like $1 million to the inauguration fund.
Yep.
Shareholders are saying, no, like, keep DEI in place. No, we want to make sure that we have safe, equitable workplaces and that we actually promote equal rights and the rights of women and queer and trans. But it's like, no, I'm going to give $1 million to Donald Trump because why not? I can't.
So this is what I agree with you wholeheartedly. And this is what I'm going to say about that. $1 million to the Apple Corporation is like translated to a penny to us. And there is a palpable fear about what's about to happen in our government, because we know that we've just elected and we're about to inaugurate a fascist.
Yes, and capital will always serve fascists and fascism first and foremost.
And so it's likely Apple was like, okay, $1 million is like a penny to us. But if we make this donation to this inauguration, then maybe then maybe they won't come after Apple, right? Mm-hmm. So it is 100% like it's garbage. Like, it's absolute garbage. And I just am like, yeah, this is how they continue to capitulate. And I start thinking now about protesting, right? And I'm like, I mean, he's going to call the U.S. military out for us to even do a protest. We won't, like, I like have chills thinking about the next 4 years.
Well, and the corporations, I'm not surprised by the corporations. I remember too long ago to say now when I was taking Business 101 in college. Mm-hmm. But I remember my teacher distinctly informing me that corporations exist for the primary purpose of creating profit.
Correct. And Apple wants to continue to make a profit, and they got to kiss
great.
The ring.
We were really happy with them for their DEI initiatives, but they didn't do that out of a purity of heart.
Correct.
They did that because they saw that it was profitable. Mm-hmm. And that's what it is. They're always going to go with and they go with whoever the president is, right? So that's why we see corporate flip-flops, because
let me be clear. What? There was not money given by Tim Cook or Apple to the Biden inauguration fund.
Oh,
we can talk all you want about
I didn't realize that.
But we're not talking about the election funds. We're not talking about the PACs.
No. Yeah,
we're talking about Donald Trump has won. He can't run again. Mm-hmm. I'm giving him $1 million because he's getting inaugurated, and I want to get a chit in the pocket of the man who's going to have control of power.
100%.
And on the other side, we do not see that. So there's times where we see an equivocation, even though I wouldn't say it's exactly the same amounts.
But even the unequivocation, I understand that too.
Yeah.
Because Apple wasn't worried about Biden doing anything to them.
But also, I don't think it's even so much. I mean, there is an aspect of worry. But even if we go back historically and we look at, Nazi Germany, we look at a fascist Italy, we look at the people and the way that industry at the time, the railways and the different agricultural czars, the people in control of those industries came to those fascists because that's how fascism works. The fascism goes out in the middle of the street with a bundle of sticks and beats someone up and makes everyone afraid that they're going to get beat up in the same way.
That's right. Exactly.
That's why they're going after trans and queer people the way they are. That's why they're going after women. They're trying to show that everyone is vulnerable. Because you're vulnerable, you'll come to heal.
Yep.
And now we're watching those businesses preemptively before the guy has even gotten, not just bending over and say, please, daddy, spank me hard, or please don't spank me, daddy. I don't know. I'm not quite sure. When you're talking about Zuck, I feel like you get in a little bit of a weird zone, but there's like a divorced dad energy.
Zuck the cook.
Musk. I mean, he's moved into Mar-a-Lago.
Yeah, I call Elon Musk Cook. I call him Elon Cook.
Yeah, and then they're close enough to hear each other snore now.
Oh my God. It's just, I mean, it's so funny though, like how this billionaire is just wagging his tongue after that decrepit orange mango Mussolini. Like, it's just, it's weird.
The billionaire, South African, Canadian American.
Oh God, yeah. And so that's kind of, and then, just how quickly Mark Zuckerberg just was like, oh, He went on Joe Rogan, and he that was his wet dream. Oh, he was like, finally, I'm going to get accepted by
hanging
the cool
out with the
kids.
guys.
I'm hanging out with the guys.
There's not enough masculinity in my boardroom. Let me get all the machismo I can by just snuggling up to the large, warm embrace of Joe Rogan.
Joe Rogan.
Well, it was a very weird thing.
Not to be cliche, but I don't see him hanging out with the MMA crowd in high school.
Yeah.
Or in college when he was coding Facebook necessarily.
Well, and we also have to remember why Facebook started. It was to rate women because he was an incel. Yeah.
Almost forgot about that one.
And was it somebody else's idea?
Oh, and it was somebody else's idea that he stole. Yeah. And so, I mean, the same with Elon. He's just these
and
these
it's supposed
men.
to be exclusive for the rich kids at Yale.
Right. But we have a fetish in this country with guns, and we have a fetish with billionaires. We the American population, they just worship. I mean, because that's what capitalism does, right? All the people that can't, my dad, he just worships these people because they're so successful. You know what I mean? And I'm like, but he's not. Categorically, he's not. He's filed bankruptcy 6 times. But there's just this longing for this weird machismo, thing that it's just gross. It's that toxic masculinity. You know what I mean? Just permeating. And what did Zuck's lawyer who quit, what did he say? Oh, well, he called him a neo-Nazi. Basically, he's watching him, he's essentially now a neo-Nazi.
Yes. What he called him, neo-Nazi. He said that even though that he wanted to continue to represent him on other important issues, that they just couldn't even be a representative of Meta anymore. And it's really scary because the policies we're talking about here are allowing people to call women objects. We're allowed to call trans and queer people mentally ill. I specifically have been testing this a lot recently, and there have been things like, we can't wait to chase you out of this country, all these sorts of very evil, hateful things, with slurs attached, and I've reported it, and if they just... Now, that's been going on for years. Anyone who's trans or queer and has been on Meta platforms and has had to be able to, struggle with these sorts of negative comments has realized that they haven't been taking them off. The fact checkers, AA people, haven't been protecting trans and queer people anyways. But now that it's actively the policy of these things, what we're seeing, and I hate to say it, is we're seeing right-wingers and these sorts of targeting crowds going on and reporting different Facebook and Meta profiles of trans and queer people. And if they cannot produce through Facebook's ID verification a copy of a ID that matches that name, that account then gets deleted. And what I've seen in my trans support groups is dozens of people having to create new accounts under their dead names and then come back into these support groups. A lot of them probably not coming back because creating an account with your dead name and putting that out there is something that you don't necessarily want to do as a trans person. But increasingly, when I talk about the capitulation of private company policies to fascism, this is what it's going to look like. I think a lot of people are under the assumption that we will be protected because of some sort of social grace or hegemony. No. But as Cody pointed out, it's about profit. And then beyond profit, it's about fear of loss of profit. Because Zuckerberg is worried about the lawsuits. He's worried about the way in which things are going to be criminalized, in the way that if he is allowing, trans youth to be able to change their name and have gender, whether or not they're going to become, and I feel like there's a level of that fear that exists for them. And then there's also a level of I want to capitulate because capitulation means money. It means capital. Right, so I think there's a directionality to power, and there's a way in which that flows. And it's sad to see American billionaires, the people who are resourced enough to be able to stand against this stuff, fall. It's such a weak... You talk about emasculation.
Emasculation, yeah. I know, instead of standing up.
Zuckerberg, it's embarrassing.
Yep. Agreed.
Tim Cook, it's embarrassing. You know what you could do? You could give $1 million to organizations that need it right now, who are helping immigrants, who are helping people in Palestine, trans and queer organizations who are trying to organize. You could be actually helping people who are at harm, but you realize, no, those people, they're going to get beat up. They're going to have to deal with it. That's their problem. I'm going to make sure that mine are protected. And that's what happens in a fascist system is we watch a fracturing. And it's incumbent upon everyone listening, including us as we organize, to remember that the way that we beat that is by coming together.
That's right.
That we do not allow the fear.
We don't come together with Republicans, though. Fuck that unity shit they keep spewing out here, y'all.
I feel like there's a lot of conversation about unity and accepting people who have different political ideologies.
nah.
I will not
I
accept
do
someone
not.
who is like,
I do not
round up my
align with
neighbors.
Nazis. Sorry. Yeah. No.
Not gonna do it, never.
Not going to do it ever. Nope, not ever. And there's a lot of whining going on the internet about like conservative families who are like, they're, not like they're breaking up because like their kids don't want to talk to them anymore. Their adult children don't want to talk to them anymore, and they're really mad about it. And they're like, we should be looking for unity. No, you're not. No.
They could have looked for unity.
That's right.
There was opportunities for them to say,
and now
I'm
that
not
they're
gonna
in
elect you.
power, they want unity.
It's a cry for unity when their actions have caused them to lose things.
That's right.
But when they were taking things from other people, there was no cry for unity.
And still are.
Yeah,
and still are.
Yeah.
I mean, I listened to the Senate confirmation hearings of Pete Hegseth for the Secretary of Defense and Pam Bondi for Attorney General. And I'm not going to lie. I am terrified listening to their public answers. Public. And like, knowing that they will get confirmed after all of that information went public, because these people know that the American people don't give a shit enough to actually watch those Senate confirmation hearings and then call their senators and say, hey, that was messed up. Hey, I don't think you should vote for that person. There's not enough of that happening and they know it. And that goes from a state to local. Our local, why do you think I have some of these Republican politicians that call me? Because they have seen that I will make something public and that I'm smart and I will plainly speak it to where people will understand it. And they are fearful of that. But we need more of that at every single level, because these people are operating with such impunity because they know the American public will not pay attention.
100%. And to go back to AP government class for a second, there's this concept called political efficaciousness. There's internal and external efficaciousness that a voter or a political actor feels within a government, both the ability for the government to act upon them and for them to act upon their government.
Yeah.
So when we talk about like a citizen's sense of internal efficaciousness or their ability to actually affect policy or government, it is at an all-time low. American people feel disempowered, that their voices do not matter, that their participation will be wasted.
19 million people sat out.
That all they want is money. All they want is for me to show up and vote. They do not care what I say. They're not listening to it. And when we look at the polls, we can look at things like the issues in Gaza. We can look at issues on trans and queer rights. We're watching Democrats shrink away and try to listen to their consultants and make these sorts of things. But what we need is courageous leadership. And we need also for people to be convincing people, because we need our leaders to not just be a representative, but also a persuasive beacon of hope and light to our people. And we're not getting that. So what we need, I think, also is to address the not just the actual corruption, but the public perception of corruption, because both the lack of light, lack of leadership, and then the overall sense of from the outside that there is money, that there are power players, that there is a system that is corrupt, keeps people from making those phone calls, because why are they going to listen? They're not going to listen. So I can sit here and talk to my friends who care passionately about these issues, and they're going to go, well, I mean, register to vote. I mean, what does that even matter? I mean, what is it going to? If anything, there's an active fear that they're going to have some, now they're going to call me and text me for more money, and they're going to put me on lists, and I'm going to have all sorts of things. And the problem is that our representatives ask too much of us within a moneyed political economy that services them, their friends, the political contractors that also service them, but do not service the people. And if we don't remedy that at its core issue, I don't see how we're ever going to get people to make those phone calls and show up to those marches and go to the state houses and go to the Capitol and actually lobby and participate in their government as they should.
Preach, Thea, preach.
I mean,
damn.
You can find them out talking to people at voter rallies.
Well, politicians live in 5 minute. They live in a world of 5 minute conversations.
Because they have to spend so much time fundraising on their phone calls and going to meetings to get money from their party.
Instead of having constituent meetings or talking to their constituents.
This is the consequence. Fascism is the consequence. You can go back to 1972 and read the Buckley v. Vallejo Supreme Court decision, the dissenting opinions, and talked about what would inevitably happen. And you can see that it was very prescient. They knew. We understand as Americans what free speech is and what it isn't. We understand that organizing our political system around moneyed speech was always going to lead to capital dominating the public sphere. And now that they have consolidated it, now that they have ownership of it, what are we going to do?
Right.
It's very difficult. It's like playing the game Monopoly, but they already own all the properties.
They already own the property and they have all the money.
So I guess this would be an inappropriate time to bring up Luigi Mangione. No, seriously, with all joking aside.
Perfect time. Free Luigi.
Hash browns, delicious.
Hash browns delicious.
Yes,
I
hash
haven't
browns
eaten
are
at
delicious.
McDonald's since.
Oh, I haven't.
Well, no, I'm not saying McDonald's hash browns are the thing, but
Yeah.
I feel like I've seen a lot of people latch onto that. You know, as a symbol of how American people are eating.
Listen, I just haven't done I would like a framed. Have y'all seen the picture of Luigi, like the saint picture of him with the, you know what I'm saying? That one, like I want a framed one, a big framed. I'm going to hang that somewhere. He's so beautiful too. I just really like looking at him. But yeah, I got into a really, it wasn't heated because it was over Facebook. So, but somebody that I used to work with in C-suite in the corporate world, who's a nice guy, and I feel like he's certainly a centrist, right? But he got upset with me about like the perp walk. There was like, I posted the perp walk photo, and then the one below it where he's like Batman or Superman or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I'm talking about? Yeah. And like he had to come in and comment, and he never comments on my stuff. But this one must have just really got at him because he works in finance. You know what I mean? And these people, sometimes people be shaking in their boots because now they're like, this might affect me one day or whatever. I don't think he was going to go.
I wonder what it's like to feel unsafe like that.
I know, right? I wonder what it's like, right? So he was like, he's no hero. And I'm like, oh, well, tell that to the millions of people who've died at the hands of United Healthcare.
But also, when we talk about political efficacious, to connect the two, there are millions of Americans that look at the actions that he took and see that as a more valid and efficacious means of political change. And rather than the capitalists acknowledging that and saying, oh, wow, we need to actually reform the system of representative government, they're saying, no, what we need to do is crack down with more state authority. We need to make sure that the police are arresting with that. We saw that. What was her face? What's her name? I'm sorry. Who was in there, North Carolina, the middle-aged white woman who was like on the phone call and actually at least said the 3 D words: deny, defend, depose, and ended up arrested.
Oh yeah. They
I can't
arrested
remember
her.
her name right now.
Yeah, I can't
Brianna
remember her name
something.
either. But yeah, but she's arrested there. She's facing like a trial, and she's facing a lot of jail time. And like the thing about, that they tried with Luigi, and they still might, they're trying to bring him on federal terrorism charges.
They didn't even do that to Dylan Roof. They didn't even do that
to Dylan Roof. I know, which by the way, I'm gonna give Biden his snaps right now because he did pardon everyone on federal death row, with exception of he pardoned 37 death row inmates a couple weeks ago, right before Christmas, and he left 3. Boston bomber, Dylan Roof, and the Pittsburgh synagogue. I don't recall his name, but the pew pew guy for the synagogue. He left those. So because Trump is so thirsty to begin federal executions again, that we had, before he left office, when he was in his first term, right before he left, he unalived 13 death row inmates. Right. It was like weeks before Biden's inauguration. After we had a decades long, it wasn't like it was an unwritten kind of for a long time. Like we're just not gonna do the thing. We're not gonna say, like, we're just gonna let him sit there. We're just not gonna do the thing, right? And then Biden ended up doing an executive order or something where it was like a stay on federal unalivings, okay, for inmates. Trump was getting bloodthirsty at the end of his administration. He did the 13, and then we knew, and of course Biden knew, that he was going to do that. he was going to come in and that was going to be one of the things he's doing. And guess, we know that the people that are on death row, like many of them are people of color. So he went ahead and just left those 3 so Trump, if you want to do your unalivings, federal unalivings, then you have those 3 garbage people to do. Good luck. And
Something tells me that they're going to live a lot longer than some of the folks who are going to be facing the state authority and crackdown. But I'd agree. I don't want to actually just be so flippant with the death and destruction that's going to come from. What does he want to hire, 1 million, or was it 10 million ICE agents?
Oh God, yeah. Who knows? Yeah, I don't remember what he said. I don't remember the number he said, but
I'm sure it won't actually be that because Donald Trump we're still waiting for Mexico to build a wall.
Well, literally. So listen, have y'all been seeing President Sheinbaum from Mexico, the Mexican president? Oh, she's amazing. She wore a hat yesterday, a red hat, y'all, and it said, "Make Mexicana America," I think it was like, "Make Mexicana America great again," or something like that. Like, it was a total troll. And she already has trolled Donald Trump on the whole, like, Mexican America, because that's what it was before, right? Yeah. Spanish was spoken before, like, for 100 years before Turtle Island, before the colonizers even came. So, like, English is not the first language of this land, right? This is not. Spanish was spoken here longer than English. So,
and there are languages that were spoken longer than Spanish.
And there were languages spoken longer than Spanish. Exactly. So she's been amazing. And she was like, I'm gonna deport 2 million Americans if you keep messing around. She's like, I'm gonna just deport the Americans. You keep talking about this stuff. So I'm here for that with like what's gonna happen there. But it's interesting. I heard a pundit person say today that they said, I bet you we won't hear much about immigration once Trump gets in office. What we will hear are horror stories about what they're doing. But how the talks about immigration, because they are going to think like, oh, Trump just solved it. Regardless if he does anything with it or not, they're just going to stop talking about it.
Yeah, just stop talking about it being a problem, and people will think there's not a problem.
And then people will think it's not a problem.
Just like he didn't really build a wall.
Exactly. And then people are like, but he built a wall. Yeah, he built like, what, 13 miles or something? Like
I feel like Obama built more miles of wall.
Yeah, literally, yeah. Mm-hmm.
Like,
and the no new wars that one of the number one arguments with the Republicans during election was like, well, no new wars with Trump. And then Trump, before he's even inaugurated, he's like, okay, sorry, U.S. Navy flying overhead. Okay, so it's like what Hitler did so many years ago. Let's put up a map on the wall, and I'm going to put little pins in the places I want to take over. So no new wars people are now literally like, well, yeah, I think we should take Panama Canal, and I think we should take Greenland, and Canada would look really good as the 54th state.
Anyway.
Right, Gulf of America. And I'm like, this is what fascists do. They take over other sovereign countries. What in the actual fuck sticks? Like, what are you doing here? Greenland? Like, you just want to... Greenland has 57,000 people. That's it, because it's fucking cold. It's so far north, it's practically the Arctic Circle. That's right, but it has a lot of resources. And the reality is that he wants Greenland because Putin cannot get by the NATO base there for trade because of sanctions. But don't worry about that because of climate change, the Arctic ice is melting, which is actually opening up some new maritime opportunities, which is also pretty scary. So Greenland he wants because there's a NATO base there, and Putin wants to be able to get through around Greenland. Panama Canal, there's Russian sanctions on the Panama Canal right now, so Russia cannot use the Panama Canal. And then the United States, then he wants Canada because resources, they have all the natural resources, and Canada's maritime routes, Russia wants access to. So it's not random that he's talking about Greenland, Panama, and Canada.
I think it's also that from the perspective of an American fascist, like you look out in the world and what maybe 60 to 70% of the world governments, especially in the past decade and a half, have actually turned further right wing, whether you look at Turkey, whether you look at all different sorts of Hungary, we can even look at different parts of Italy. And as that rising global fascism, and this is not a justification by any means, but I do think that American fascism is increasing its intensity and is ramping up and the real fear, not just for us, but for the entirety of the world, is that we are basically an immense military superpower.
Yeah.
And as we turn our weapons and our attention towards our own people and imperial ambitions, what is really terrifying is like building this new Axis power and how this looks and what this looks like. And I think that from the perspective of Republicans and people who are there, they are slavishly serving power. They want to see Trump. They want to see Putin. They want to see us almost become, the Axis, not the Allies.
Yeah.
And it's very scary to me because the future of what that means for the world is not great.
No.
As Americans, I don't want to see us become literally an imperial force or worse, creating a new geopolitical world order, and that subverts NATO or subverts other things. And I don't know what that's going to look like, but when we talk about these larger things about America capitulating and how this is going to force other countries to react within the real politics arena, how is China going to react? How are other players in the Middle East going to India? And these are sorts of things that
India has a fascist dictator, whether they want to believe that Modi is or not.
I believe there are a lot of people.
Modi puts his face on the rice bags that they distribute. He's like, here, let me give you. And then it's a giant picture of his face. Like, he's a total fascist.
That's right out of the play of Hitler. Just go around passing out loaves of bread and make sure that they know that it came from the Nazi Party.
That's exactly right.
Those are sorts of things that I wish that we were doing more sorts of things of handing out food rather than handing out, deportation slips, I guess what we're going to be doing here.
Yeah. Something like that. Yeah.
But I digress.
No, that was a solid point. But like, I think that's the big thing that people need to understand is that piece of it, right? Like there's a reason. And then I think, okay, our military force, like what valid reason can you give our young military men for starting a war with our allies? And then what's going to happen, right?
For their college.
Right. And then, but I think,
valid reason for...
I do think
it's threat construction.
Yeah. I do think that there's a solid piece of these younger people, like they serve in the military because they're like, chances are I'm probably not going to unalive right now, like in the military, and I can get free college. Right. And so, but when you're actually talking about going to war with NATO, there's a real significant chance that these young people will have to put their lives on the line, and they don't want to do that. And so it's going to be very interesting to see what happens if Trump thinks that our American military, our young people are just going to be like, yeah, we're going to go. Yeah, that's cool. Yeah, we'll go against like Europe and NATO. I mean, I
think this will be dictated by broader things.
Right, but I actually think that that's where the revolution will come in, because it's going to take massive. It's going to take them being like in large numbers to say like, no, we're not doing this. So I don't know. I think we're on the precipice of a cultural revolution.
Those folks will immediately be put into prison.
Yeah, for sure. No. I know, but that's what. I know.
Their families will be kicked out of housing. They'll lose access to health care, and they'll be put in prison. So I don't have an active expectation of active military folks to be able to resist or save us from fascist powers.
Well, I mean, I have no expectations of it, but I am. Honestly, that's what it has to take, and that's what we have to change something.
I don't think it'll reach as far as the military revolting. I don't think it'll reach that level until they're being asked to attack their home, not just their neighbors.
Not just their neighbors. Yeah. So I think there's so many people who are like, oh, this is like hyperbole and stuff. I'm like, I don't know, if you just read a book or two, Like, you can see that
It's not like these things have never
happened. Like,
And then also, what's going to happen with our allies? Because whereas Germany and France, the UK, when this new geopolitical arrangement that we barely were able to stave off in 2016 to 2020 comes to fruition now, especially in the light of the Ukrainian war, and how all of a sudden the military resources will be pulled back. How are they going to have to pivot? Are they all going to stand against the fascist United States?
Yeah.
Can we expect them to do that? And how much will fracture within the European
They
Union?
are all capitalists as well.
Thank you.
And
Yep,
they will
they are.
stand where
the
they
money
think
is. Where the money is.
they will most financially benefit as a country.
Yes. Okay, this conversation is really getting me in a doomy
I'm sorry.
place.
Yes.
So can we switch over to your visit to the General Assembly?
Oh, yes.
In Virginia. So I'll just catch the viewers up for a second. This year is very, very important. So there are only 2 states in the country that have a gubernatorial election. The year after the presidential, which is New Jersey and Virginia. So in Virginia, we have elections every flipping year, which means we are constantly in political. Those of us that are involved in activism and organizing, we're on burnout central every single year because we get literally no breaks.
But we do get a chance to get rid of Trumpkin.
But we do, yeah, that's right. We do get a chance to get rid of Trumpkin this year. So, and usually historically, the governor, whoever wins, and it happened with Youngkin. Biden got elected, Youngkin got elected, Republican, right? So we are anticipating the same kind of pattern of behavior in Virginia, which is we will probably elect a Democratic governor, okay? Provided elections will still go off without a hitch, right? Okay, so this year's important. We have all of our state legislators who they're all running for re-election because they're every 2 years our state delegates have to run for re-election. Not our senators do not. They're every 6, yeah. State senators are every 6 years. So we have really important stuff. So there's been lobby days because General Assembly's for like 6 weeks to 8 weeks. This year it's a short session. So because of the odd years are short sessions. So there's lobby days for weeks at a time where people go and advocate with their legislators. And you said that you met with Delegate Bloxham, who is an Eastern Shore. He has a smidge of Virginia Beach.
Just a smidgen.
Just a smidge. And you are a constituent of his? Or are you in 99?
I believe I'm in 99.
Okay, yeah, I thought you might be in 99, but 100 is very close, and so you met with.
But I couldn't actually get in with the rest of the delegation because
Tata in 99, 2 years in a running avoided.
Yes, because this isn't the first time we've done lobby days. Actually, Cody, you came up. We did lobby days together.
Tata
last year.
Tata avoided the lobby day.
Oh yeah, her office was closed.
Her office is closed every time.
And then before we went to Tata's office, we actually went by.
I have her phone number.
We should call her. We should call her right now.
We should call her right now and be like, "Why is your office closed on that day on the Equality Virginia lobby days?"
But before, we also went to DeStef's office, and what was really interesting is that we went there. I watched DeStef run from his assistant's office into his office and close the door for exactly at the time that we had our scheduled meeting. And then his chief of staff, who was very nice in different ways, also a little bit rude in different ways.
Oh yeah.
Was I'm sorry, he's he's business, he can't do this, he's at a meeting. And I said, well, what is his meeting, what's going on? And in the middle of me talking to her, she got a phone call. She said, I'm so sorry, this is very unprofessional. Took the phone call, and she was sitting there talking about DeStef Enterprises. I would very much love for any internet sleuths to find out what DeStef Enterprises is and what they do exactly. But
he has so many businesces. Don't even get me started about. I could do a whole podcast about DeStef.
I do live in his district.
Yes, you do. And did you say that I'm a constituent in his district?
I'm a constituent in your district. I drove all the way up here, and I'm here officially in the lobby day to be able to talk to you about issues that are important that you're about to vote on today. I want to know what you're talking about because I know this meeting was important to me. I was hope that it was important to my state senator, and if it isn't, I'd like to know what was more important.
Right.
So I got a little sassy with her, and she couldn't tell me. She wouldn't tell me, but I think that they was taking personal time.
Well, he was. I'm certain. I'm sure. I'm not going to say was because I don't know, but
maybe he was huddled up, just kind of
I'm not going to say he was hiding. We're
going to make the assumption he was hiding because it looked like he was hiding, Senator DeStef. And but I would have said, so this meeting is very important to me. So what time can I come back today?
Unfortunately, with the way that we had so many other things, it's like we had a certain amount of time that we could hang out there before we had to go to the other, just so we could get all of our lobbying points to all of our different constituents. And I was really fortunate because the group that we had, I was the leader of the group. They put me as the leader for some strange reason. They're like, Thea, you go ahead and speak. And I said, okay, I'll be happy to do that. We were with Stacy Walls from the Life Center was part of our group. So I felt like we had a whole bunch of folks. We also, Gray Leiden, who was our social media manager, came with us. We have some video and audio of the different interviews that we had with different people. And that's up on our social media. You can go to our social media. It's at KalisCoalition.com, at Kalis Coalition across the socials, or you can go to KalisCoalition.com to find out more information. But it was a really interesting conversation, not so much with DeSteph or with Tata or any of our other delegates, but with Bloxham, because he actually invited us in and we had a nice, and it wasn't scheduled. He just opened his door. So credit to him.
I'm actually kudos to Bloxham for that. Yeah.
Yes, he opened his door to a call so that we could sit down and talk. And I think that, his perspective is that he's there as a politician to, approve the people's will and not do controversial issues. And one of the issues that we've honed in on, because lots of things in session, were the Parental Bill of Rights and some of the issues that are happening for students and parents in Virginia Beach. Because what I could speak to, and what I think we try to do at these lobby days, if you're listening, if you never participated in one, is to try to tell our stories or try to give some sort of insight into the issues or community that we represent. And one of the things that I was able to talk about was about how we've had so many trans youth being taken out of public education that are going to homeschooling.
Yep.
Mm-hmm. We're seeing a lot of trans and queer youth commits unaliving, but also attempt unaliving. We're seeing rates of depression. We're seeing more isolation. And these are direct impacts that have specific numbers that are happening in his city because of these policies. And that when it comes down to it, while he may or may not be amenable to the harm or listening to the harm, he was much more amenable as a Republican, as a conservative-minded person, considers himself middle of the road.
Center right, yeah.
To the idea that a parental bill of rights or forcing taxpayer dollars or forcing public servants, teachers and administrators to go and report on students was inappropriate, because I don't know whether he agreed or not. I hope that he heard it, because that is not the role of government. That is not the role of the state. That is the role of the family, of the community, of the church. And one of the things that we can do is to say, let us not waste our taxpayer dollars on doing that. And actually put the onus where it should be, which is on the parents. That and I spoke from my personal experience, if a parent wants to show up and wants to be there, like my father has been there for me, then they will grow and change and find ways to support their child. And if they can't do that, that is not the job of the state to then come in and tell them what they need to do or give them more information or intercede in any way, shape, or form.
That's right.
So it's not their rights. This is extra rights. This is beyond rights. These are privileges and taxpayer benefits that they want that are not germane and actually cause harm.
Right.
So I think he listened, but Representative Bloxham, I would love to invite him to the trans family dinner. It's one of the things that I didn't get to do because we ran out of time. But if he's a representative of Virginia Beach, he needs to come. He needs to come break bread with trans families and queer folks to realize we're not threats. We are taxpayers. We have mortgages. We have rental agreements. We have jobs. We are people and constituents. And while we may not be in the majority, we may not have 50, 60% of the country that identify as who we are. We deserve protection, dignity, equal rights. And then also, we shouldn't lose those in contest with parental rights. But
I 100% agree with you.
Everybody should have the same rights. That's the part of the conversation that they're missing so much, is that, look, when you're sick, you go to your doctor, and your doctor, when you have any problems, you go to your doctor. You have anything going on with your health, you go to your doctor, you say, hey, this is what's going on with my health. This is what's going on with my life. This is where I'm at. And your doctor prescribes treatments and procedures and all sorts of things in everybody's life.
Yeah.
Everybody's life. Medications.
Diets,
exercises.
Yeah.
These are things that happen in everybody's life.
Yep.
And in everybody else's life, it is perfectly normal and perfectly acceptable to take that doctor's advice and act on it.
That's right.
To go get the drugs that the doctor prescribed to you, to start doing the things in your life that the doctor suggested that you do, whether it's the diet changes or lifestyle changes or exercise, whatever it is, mental health, all of the different things that go into people's health. And so everybody gets that right.
Right. Yep.
Everybody has the right to do that. And if anybody was taking that right away from anybody else, if you were taking that right away from somebody that moved through society like I get to, there would be outrage. There would be a lot of Luigis.
Yeah.
Well, what if I said it? What if I went ahead and said it? Christians shouldn't be able to serve in the police or the military.
Right.
What if I said these churchgoers were indoctrinating children and damning their souls, and they ought to be locked up in prison forever? What if I said that their doctors shouldn't be able to practice medicine? They should be denied health care access and coverage, and they should have to pay.
Yeah, what if I said
what if I said all this about Christians? Oh wait, I forgot. They have the social and cultural and economic hegemony in this country. They're able to move through spaces and through economies and through governments without having any questioning.
Or what if you just said, hey, when a cis straight white man goes to the doctor and says, I feel like less of a man now, and the doctor prescribes them testosterone.
Okay, y'all. Let me really on this. So I had an idea for a TikTok, and I just haven't made the time to go do it. But I was gonna look up every place that does like my husband goes to Fountain of Youth, right? And that's where he gets his testosterone. And I think I told you guys at one time that when he walks in to get his testosterone injections, he walks into the lobby and he's like, I'm here for my gender affirming care. And he announces that every time he walks in, because there's always men in ball caps that, voted for Trump sitting there. And he wants to remind everybody in that office that you're here for gender affirming care. That's what it is.
But see, this illustrates it. We don't want to take it away from them.
No, exactly. But I want to make a video. That's the thing. But I want to make a video, and I want to look up all the gender affirming care clinics in the city, and I want to make an actual video and say, hey, Virginia Beach, this is how many gender affirming care centers we have in Virginia Beach. And I want to watch the Republicans brain explode. But then I'm going to do a compilation of pictures of all of the places. And they're all places that men go primarily to get testosterone injections. And they pay, this shit's $2,000 a year for them. This is not cheap for them to go to these, wellness clinics, right? Because that's what they're calling them, men's wellness clinics. Well, guess what? This is gender affirming care. And if y'all want to keep coming after gender affirming care for people, adults or minors, then guess what? These are gender affirming care clinics. So let me show you how what you're getting is gender affirming care.
But see, this illustrates the one-sided nature of this, because there's no part of me that says I want to go to the state and to the government, to the federal state. I want to have laws passed that mean you cis man can't get gender affirming care.
Right.
And
I
also,
don't
to be
want
clear,
that either.
I want to be very clear. I want to take a second. It's really important. I do not believe that we should keep Christians from serving in the military police. I believe strongly that they should. And that's what the point is that we do not have the luxury of taking that position. Beyond the luxury, I don't want to. That isn't within my ethos, within my political message.
That's right.
If anything, I want these folks to have access to their gender affirming care.
Absolutely. I want my husband to keep getting
the point is
testosterone.
we want everybody to have access
We want
everyone
to that
to
care.
have
And
access
that's the point, is they don't they've limited themselves so much in their understanding of what's even being targeted and talked about that they don't even really understand that they get this same care.
Yep.
That we get this same care.
That's right.
But even if it's not exactly the same care, I still have a right to life, liberty, the pursuit of happiness, the ability to have a family, the ability to put roots down in my community.
That's right. Yeah.
Those things are my rights.
That's exactly, and everybody deserves the rights to all of those same things. And somehow they've created this world where it's okay for them to take those rights away from somebody.
Correct.
And finding that magic bullet, I mean, hopefully.
Yeah. Well, I don't know. Hopefully,
Well, you just have to be loud. We just have to be louder. Children need to use your outside voices.
That's right.
We need to be speaking in our
outside voices.
Yes, we need to be speaking in our outside voices.
Yeah. I literally, on my cohort last night, I started this new it's called Roots Academy, and it's through an organization called Grow, which is grassroots organization. And I was telling them, I'm like, okay, like, I am literally on the verge of being straight up like a feral goblin. Like, I'm on the verge, you know what I mean, with these politicians. And so the reason that's why I was sharing my why for joining this cohort was because I'm literally on the verge of being feral.
I'm not on the verge. I'm like a feral goblin rodent trying to find my way into the house and make my way to the pantry. Like, I just haven't figured out how to get to things that's going to irritate them.
Right. But the problem is like when I say like I mean to their face and like not like, and so I'm going but I'm like let's just dial it back or whatever. But there's this, we have to start using our voices louder, and also we all have a role, right? And sometimes feral is good. It's just I'm trying to find the balance between, you know what I mean? Because I still want to be able to get shit done.
Exactly. One of the things I've been focusing a lot is the difference between outrage and rage.
Yeah.
And the fine line between how to speak with righteous indignation and how to not speak with anger. And I understand that a certain amount of that is perception. The audience's perception, which you only have a certain amount of control over. And then I also think about the intersection of tone policing and how that especially intersects different groups of people, how that affects cis women, how that affects trans folks, how that affects BIPOC folks, how that affects different people from different classes, people who don't have the same access, even if it has nothing to do with class, and how like you have to bend over backwards in certain spaces, and there's times and places to bend that. And really understanding that landscape is something that, as leaders, is something that I hope to, as I continue to position myself as a community leader, is something that I think a lot about, because I don't want to alienate the people that I need on my side right now. And then I also don't want to respond to the outrageous with, well, that's not very nice. So there's a level that I have to find, and it's something that takes an enormous amount of energy and personal strength. And it's something that, I look to people like you, because while you may consider yourself a feral goblin, I feel like there is more need of urgency and impassioned advocacy. But where does that stop?
Well, and I also think there's a certain meet them where they are aspect. There's a certain level of communication. And they've even said, right? Oh, what do we like about direct and, those things. And I'm not going to lie. I'm ready in a lot of ways to give it back to them. Yeah. To be very direct and answer some questions with, no, that's stupid. You're being stupid.
Yeah. No, that's stupid and you're being done. Yeah, 100%.
That's stupid. You're being stupid and uninformed.
Please, and read a book.
Yes, read a book. Just read a book.
Please read a book.
Yeah.
Bless your heart. Read a book.
Yes. I'm really excited for this version of Cody, because Cody has, for the longest time, I'm just like, oh, Cody, you say, like, when your speeches, like, you do it so well because you're not being snarky, like, you know what I mean? And then here I come falling behind him, and I'm just like ripping, you know what I mean? I'm just ripping them up. And so...
But I am. I am ready to, like...
I'm ready for Cody.
I think we should do a whole segment where we just call, like, we should call Tata now and just be like, hey, I don't know where you were, but I hope it's because you had bad shrimp and you pooed yourself a little bit and had to change your pants and throw your underwear away in the bathroom.
Oh my God!
Embarrassed all day long, and I hope you think about it all the way through next year.
Producer Athena, can we cue that up? Can we,
oh my God!
Okay, next time we're gonna cue that up for next time.
Next time. This is what I'm talking about.
We need to. Yeah.
This is what
We
I'm
do need to
talking
get
about.
more phone calls, and we need to get more interactivity. If anyone is watching or has been commenting, I really appreciate you watching. We still haven't got all of these things connected where we can see your chats, where we can like respond directly to your comments. And then we'd like to improve that, and then also be able to give people the opportunity to call in directly to us while we're live. It's very new that we're going to be able to stream at this quality. Maybe you've noticed it's a little bit better quality than our last couple streams.
Yeah, you might actually have been able to been watching us the time if there's
I
anybody
know.
watching us. And also, if you do watch us and you watch this video when it goes up on YouTube and all the different things that the talk is leaving, so you'll still be able to find our Talking Transparency videos on Talking Transparency on YouTube.
Yep.
You can go to talkingtransparency.com to get
Yep.
all the links. You can listen to
You'll
all
be
the
able to
episodes.
find us on BZDad22 on the Instagram, the whole Meta Facebook, where you can do whatever you want now. I mean, you can say whatever you want on there, isn't it?
you
Isn't it? There's
can.
no misinformation. I mean, we can talk about the
community
whole
notes.
the whole little love triangle between Musk and Trump and Zuck
and Zuck and yeah. Oh,
Yeah.
I know. But at this point,
and all of that. But
That's for
we'll
next
still be
episode.
using all of the available platforms to get the messages out where we can get them out.
fingers crossed, TikTok
Fingers crossed.
doesn't go away.
I have a YouTube. I'll start posting on BZ22.
And then I have my YouTube is Tattoo Maven, same as all of my handles. And I just got my YouTube up, so I'm looking for subscribers.
Yes, please go follow and like our amazing
And Talking
co-hosts
Transparency.
and Talking Transparency as well to keep up with us, because obviously there's going to be a lot of shifting, a lot of changes in the social media landscape right now. But we want you to follow. We want you to be a part of our community. We want to be able to connect with you because it's going to get harder to do that in some ways, but we're going to
Yeah.
keep doing it. And on the point of continuing these connections, I wanted to bring up some of our upcoming events and
Yes,
some
I
of the
was going
things
to
that we're
ask
doing.
about Trans Family Dinner, like all that, the next, yeah.
Absolutely. This coming weekend on the 19th, we're going to be hosting our Trans Family Dinner in Hampton at the Life Center's new location. It's going to be the day before the inauguration. We are going to have a wonderful catering spread, everything spread. I hope that if you're listening to this and you're in the Hampton Roads area, if you're on the Eastern Shore, if you're in the peninsula, I hope that you will consider making the journey out. I hope that you'll consider being with us. We're going to keep hosting these spaces. We're going to keep making these intentional spaces. But from 5 p.m. to 8 p.m., we're going to have all these different things. We're going to have some games set up, some activities, some group discussions, and obviously just food. Good food where we can break food, where you break bread with some of these trans kids, some of these trans parents who are terrified can come together. Our last one that was at the Chrysler Museum was absolutely amazing. We had almost 80 people, so I don't think we're anticipating that many people this time. So hopefully it'll be a little bit more of an intimate engagement. So if you can make it out, if you haven't heard about it, please come. And then beyond that, we have another event that we're going to be doing in February. Unfortunately, I don't have queued up the exact date, so stay tuned. You can go to our website, kalescoalition.com/events to get this date. But we have a workshop that we'll be doing at the 757 Creative Reuse Center in Norfolk. It's a wonderful location, safe space where you can go and actually take stuff directly out of landfills, useful things, crafting supplies, all sorts of things that are going to go to waste, and use those things to creatively reuse. One of the things we're going to be doing is with our very own producer, Athena, hosting a crane making workshop, and we may even be able to do some balloon animals. I don't know. We'll see.
Wow.
She has
Balloon
multiple
animals.
talents.
So excited.
I know how to make a balloon snake.
You're ahead of me.
I make a great one every time.
Okay, all right. I don't know how to do any balloon. I mean, I could probably make a snake, but
Snakes are really easy.
I would figure snakes are pretty easy. Yeah. Well, that's exciting. I'm excited. When's the next Trans Family Dinner, you said?
That's going to be on January 19th.
January 19th.
And the next one is going to be the third Sunday not the third Sunday, the third Thursday in February. And that one we're going to be doing at the Great Awakening Church of Christ out in Portsmouth. And then I think in March, we're going to have another one out here in Virginia Beach. So we're going to get all over Hampton Roads in the next couple of months. So if you are listening and you can't make it to one, sign up on our website. Go to kalescoalition.com/TFD specifically. You'll find an encrypted sign-up form where you or your family members can sign up to join us.
Great.
Yep. So go to those social medias, follow us there. And no matter what happens at any level of government, we will still be out here creating safe spaces, having hard conversations, challenging people that need to be challenged, and being loud and obnoxious if we need to be loud and obnoxious.
Yep.
And more than anything, defeating hate with our joy. Because trans joy will defeat hate every time.
even if it may take a little time.
But it's fine. I just want somebody to hit me with a tranquilizer for 4 years. Wake me up when it's over. On that note.
I need a shot in the ass for the next 4 years. But anyways.
Oh, good night.
This podcast is brought to you in partnership with Collective Tattoo and the Kalos Coalition. We are listener supported, so if you like the show, please consider donating to us on Patreon at patreon.com/talkingtransparency. Like, share, and subscribe across social media, and be sure to visit our Linktree at linktree.com/talkingtrans.